Hello and welcome to Oak Road Hatter, where I'm joined by Jamie Castle and Adam Driscoll as we attempt to dissect what was a mind-boggling and baffling Luton Town draw against Oxford United, and we'll also be looking ahead to the trip to Sheffield United. But before that, don't forget to follow us on socials at Oak Road Hatter, like, comment and subscribe on YouTube, and rate us 5 stars on your audio listening platform, and we really appreciate the support. It helps to create the best content, no matter where you are. But as I mentioned there, we'll get straight into things. Jamie, first of all, how are you after last night?
Yeah, good. Overall, I think I'm fairly balanced now and sort of had a a night to sleep on it. But yeah, we were just saying before we started recording just how wet we got in that front bit of the Kenny end. So we are now dry and warmer than we were. It was a nice welcome to October.
Adam, how are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. As you say, I've dried off from last night. Being on the front row of the Kenny end has its perks most weeks, but certainly not in events like last night. Yeah, I had a bit of a nightmare trying to get to the game as well with like Lower Luton Road and other routes flooded. So it took me a little while, and clearly have no regrets from going and instead of watching it on telly in the dry in the warm at home.
Well, yeah, I'm sure a lot of you listening or watching were at the game on Tuesday night and also had to endure pretty horrific weather and probably a pretty horrific journey if you drove just because of the state of the roads around here. And when the game started, it looked like it was all going to be lifted straight away. We started really well, and we had a press, particularly through Kraus and Brown, and we got that early goal, which we've been craving for weeks now. And that obviously came through Jordan Clark, who's been through heavy criticism from his performance against Plymouth. But Jamie, what did you make of that opening 10 minutes?
Yeah, really good. I think one of the best 10-minute spells of the season, but probably isn't hard to say that. I think for me the positive was that there was a slight sort of tactical change in that sort of three man midfield going back to that championship promotion season, right, where we had Nick Campbell at the base and then two eights off him, that being Clark and Kraus. And Clark was sort of still operating in a bit of like a wider role in terms of in that three-man midfield, but definitely had the instruction to off the ball, come back into that three. But yeah, the first goal was not the most sort of free flowing football, right? But it shows what we were all about previously with sort of Tom Kraus managing to sort of just tackle the defender in their box, which then put Clark through, and then a good finish beyond the keeper. And then from there, you think, okay, good start, just keep it going. But I think unfortunately, even though we got a second soon after, I thought the performance started to drop after 1-0 up. So um, yeah, that was frustrating, but I guess it does show that tactically that we started well, and I think that probably is a positive that you can take.
And Adam, how influential was Kraus whilst he was on the pitch in terms of creating that first goal and then scoring the second?
Yeah, I thought he was brilliant. To be fair, as Jamie said, he was sort of leading the press, which was refreshing from what we've seen so far this season. I think he's going to give us a lot. You hope he's not been taken off with too much of an injury, because we are going to clearly need him for the majority of the season. But he's shown what type of player he is in terms of that high press, and I think we saw highlights, didn't we, from like YouTube, and we saw what sort of player he would be. But to see him kind of slot in and do that pretty much straight away was really refreshing. Got the assist with a little interception for Clark, and then obviously got his goal as well. So really encouraged by him. More than anything else, really.
And that second goal we'll come on to in a minute. But before that, we had to endure some pretty scary moments defensively, and Mengi saved us on the line twice. Um, he was back to probably his some of his best performances from last season in that first half, and looked much quicker than he's looked this season, Jamie.
Yeah, I think Mengi on the whole has done really well. I think is okay. the team itself hasn't done great this season, but I think you can certainly pick out a couple of individuals, and of which Mengi is one, that I think can come out so far and say that they've given the all, and they've not been too bad. I think frustratingly he's been sort of shoved out on the left of a free when I think he's probably could be one of the best defenders in the championship if he was in that sort of central sort of centre half role in the free. But I thought, yeah, he was excellent again last night. The keeper as well, Kaminsky, got us out of jail a number of times. I think that it was that chance where I think what Harris just had a bit of a sort of a snapshot on the penalty box, and Kaminsky just sort of stuck his his right arm out. And then there was a sort of a second shot which then Mengi just managed to get off the line. I think was the moment that you were referring to. And that was at 1-0, I think, right? So that could have made it 1-1, but thankfully we managed to get that second goal. But yeah, defensively, again, a bit frustrating. It's tough to know whether it's personnel or tactical. I think you probably have to give some credit to Oxford as well in terms of the way they came out and played. I thought they were very impressive last night. But yeah, I think we need to sort that out very quick, because especially with this run of games coming up, we're going to ship some goals if we don't.
Yeah, and you mentioned the second goal there. That came from pressure from Jacob Brown, who we've not seen from the start in a long, long time. And when we spoke about him recently, you mentioned, Jamie, and I'm sure other people have mentioned, how he's probably the best pressing attacker we've got. And I think that was on full display last night, Adam. He really got into the faces of the Oxford defenders on the ball. And we've complained at times about how we attempt to play it out from the back and how it doesn't work. And that is where a lot of our chances came from in terms of going the other way, with Oxford trying to play it out from the back, passing it across to the keeper, and then Jacob Brown being really on it on that press. And that's what created that second goal. He was incredibly quick to the man who was pressing.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. He was brought in for that reason, wasn't he? To be the kind of pressing forward and to, complement the others that we've got in, like Morris and Adebayo. I actually thought that his pressing and Kraus pressing sort of gave a few others a bit more of a rocket in the first half. I thought Adebayo was pressing somewhat like his old self, and it only takes a couple of people to start doing it, doesn't it, for people to be impacted by that. I thought Brown was really good, and obviously played his part hugely in the second goal. It did drop off, and I think particularly second half, how easy Oxford were able to play it out the back was, just knocking it around between centre halves and basically just waiting for that movement to get it into midfield. So it was very evident that, once he went off, and I guess he's still lacking a bit of fitness as well, isn't he? So he can't maintain it for that long. But it was very impactful in the first half compared to later on in the game.
Yeah, and that press was causing problems all throughout probably the opening, maybe 37 minutes. We were really on top of that on that game. And then things sort of turned around, and fair play to Tyler Goodrum. We spoke about him in our preview, and it was an Oxford podcast, I believe it was the Fence End podcast, at the start of the season, said how much potential and how good he could be. And his goal was an absolutely brilliant strike. It was in front of you guys up in the Kenilworth Road end, opposite end to where I was sat. So just talk me through it from your perspective, Jamie.
It's one of those goals that we seem to concede an awful lot. I think if you look at last season, you had Michael Elise did it, you had Bryn Larson did it, and it's sort of that sort of goal that we just concede time and time again. Now I think the build-up play into it from them was, I think, slightly fortunate. I think Doughty was pressing. I think it might have been Dale on that side, and then I think was Mengi or someone just got like a little knock on the ball that then managed to find its way into their midfield. Again, I'm not sure if it was Rodriguez in the middle, but it was a bit of a pinball in the middle, and then it went to Goodrum and a first time finish with his right foot over Kaminsky into the top right corner. And yeah, a great finish, but really, really frustrating from my point of view, because although we weren't amazing in that sort of second quarter, sort of certainly after we went 1-0 up, I think to get in at half time 2-0 up would have been massive, and I think it would have been a bit of a long way to come back for them from there. Whereas going in at half time, 2-1 down, just gives them that impetus, and I think does sort of the half time speech for Des Buckingham really, doesn't it? It sort of goes in and say, look, we are the better team, or we're in this game and we're only a goal behind. So I think that goal for them just changes this whole sort of dynamic of the game, which was strange because I didn't really feel it in the Luton fans in terms of trying to get the team over the line. I think there was almost some at times a bit of a acceptance that Oxford were going to get that equaliser, and I think probably as much as obviously it's not up to the fans all the time to get the players up and win a game of football. I think probably we as fans could have done more at 2-1 to sort of try and push the team on. But I just think the performance in the second half, as Adam mentioned earlier, just wasn't good enough.
And obviously we spoke about how good Kraus was in that first half. He was substituted on 51 minutes. He'd gone down with what I think was a wrist injury in very early in the first half. Had to have it taped up and was playing with some bright orange bandage on his wrist. But I don't think that was anything to do with why he was taken off. But he went off and Pelly came on, and from the moment Pelly came on, it was a struggle to watch, I would say. And Oxford, 3 minutes later, Oxford got the equaliser through Ruben Rodriguez, who another player we spoke about how dangerous he could be. And from that moment onwards, there was a real, not just concern, but frustration within the ground, particularly the end where I was sat. It was what I felt it. And I'm sure it was very much the same in the Kenilworth Road end, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You almost sort of looking at the clock going, well, what minute are they going to score again? It certainly felt at 2-1 like there was only one team going to score next. And I give credit to Oxford. I like the way they played. They were playing with a clear plan. They were playing with identity. They had good patterns of play, getting up the pitch. So fair play to them for that. And I mean, Edward said in the pre-match that they might come and do X, Y, and Z. Well, they didn't. They came for 3 points, and I think if I was an Oxford fan, I'd be disappointed not to walk away with them. So credit to them. Credit to them on that completely. Just going on to Pelly, we've spoken about Pelly before. I think he's barely played, and then you chuck him on for 45 minutes, and you expect him to be able to swim. And yes, he's clearly not at the level that we expect him to be, or maybe even want him to be at the moment, or I don't want to say anymore, but but when he hasn't played, what do you really expect? So I think there's a bit of mismanagement with him. He needs to play 45 minutes because Kraus goes off injured, and you expect him to be just slotting straight in when he's barely played a minute all season. I think that's a bit harsh for Pelly to get the pelters that he has done from that performance. That's my opinion. Other people have different opinions on Pelly, but yeah, that's where I stand on it. I think he's getting criticism that is not warranted all at him. It's also warranted on how he's been managed over the past with 6 to 12 months, let's say.
I don't disagree with Adam. I think I'm a big Pelly lover, and I've loved his career with us, and I wouldn't put the blame solely at his door for last night. But I think regardless of how match fit you are or not, I think there was one of his first passes he came on was a simple 5-yard pass to Clark, and it just went 2 yards beyond him, and Oxford countered from that, and probably should have scored on that counter. So if for me, again, I'm not a professional footballer, so I could be way off the mark, but if I'm a sub being brought on, I'm thinking, right, first few touches, just do some simple passes, make the passes accurate, and build your confidence, and especially if you're a player that is a confidence player and B hasn't played too many minutes. I think you just need to do the basics without doing too much. And in those moments, he just wasn't doing the basics well enough. And we're not expecting him to lead the press like Tom Kraus or do a 15-20 yard ping from left to right to set someone through. But you expect, I think certainly at this level, to do the basics well enough. And I think that for me is the concern, because clearly the drop off from Kraus and Baptiste to the likes of a Pelly is pretty significant now. I don't think Kraus is serious. I think he basically got taken out about a minute before he came off, and he was limping a little bit, but I think he was fine, so it was just precautionary. But right now, obviously, we've lost Baptiste for a little bit. Hopefully, that's not too long. It seems like Kraus is okay. Nakamba obviously has come through so far. I think he's building his fitness up really well, but we all know that he's sometimes a slight injury concern, given his sort of past of injuries. But I think outside of those three, okay, I think Plickard technically is fantastic, but I think he's probably a bit out of form at the minute. Beyond them, you've got Pelly and Walsh, and obviously we're speaking about Pelly, and I'm sure we'll speak about Litley and Walsh in a sec. But yeah, just that drop off from those first choice midfielders to the backup midfielders, I think is way too big. And I didn't think when we signed him that the mean Darbo would come in January and sort of be in the mix straight away. But on the basis of Liam Walsh and Pelly right now, I think he comes straight in as that sort of first choice backup for sure.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Liam Walsh there, and we will come on to him in a few minutes. Just it won't quite be as quick as he was on the pitch for. I just wanted to touch a little bit more on Pelly, because he can't be blamed for the goal we conceded when he came on, because there are 10 other players on the pitch for us. I think the issue that a lot of us Luton fans and a lot of Luton fans last night had is, as you mentioned, his passing was just all over the place. That first pass that completely misplaced. But he wasn't keeping up with play at all. And he had fresh legs. He was coming into a game where it was quite a heavy pitch because of the weather. So players would have been pretty tired. And he should have been one of those players that was getting about and keeping up with play. But he just seemed to be three or 4 seconds behind the play at all times. And I think it certainly didn't help us keep the pressure on. And it was the difference between Kraus and Pelly was pretty stark. And when Pelly first came on, there was people around me saying, "Oh, why is Walsh not come on?" And then Walsh did come on, and then Walsh went off. So
Yeah.
let's just talk about Liam Walsh and what on earth was he doing? I don't know what's been told to him, but he was actually on the ball was in play when he was on the pitch for 7 seconds, I think it was. The actual red card was about 30 seconds or something, but there was other changes and stuff happening, and it was a goal kick. So the ball gets pushed up long by Kaminsky and gets knocked down. Adebayo is competing for that first ball. The second ball gets won by an Oxford player, and Liam Walsh goes in not only late but over the ball and scissoring the legs of the Oxford player. And it was actually a horrible, horrible tackle when you look at the replays. So, Jamie, let's just talk about Liam Walsh's 7-second cameo.
I actually missed it at the time, because I think what I was confused with was obviously the subs had happened, and we just made our sort of third or fourth subs from our third opportunities. That was obviously our subs done. So I was actually to my right, to both my dad and my granddad, being like, "Oh, poor Joe Taylor, like he needs to come on in this situation." And again, probably another topic to come on to in terms of Joe not coming on as a sub. And then I'm speaking to my dad and my granddad, then suddenly I could hear like a whistle go, and I'm thinking, what's happened here? And I can see the players just swarm around, and I guess then you see the red. I think for God's sake, at first I thought it was Corley Woodrow, which I think in the context made it even more hilarious because of the whole Joe Taylor conversation on the right, and then saying why Corley's been brought on. But yeah, it turns out it was Liam Walsh. And yeah, I've seen it back. There's no point really discussing it. As you say, it's a red. It's stupid. So I think we'll move on from the actual tackle itself. But yeah, I think one of the saving graces from that is that we're now without him for 3 games, so we can't play.
Yeah, for a player that's had, I mean, it is laughable, really. Getting a red card that quickly after coming on is, if you don't laugh, I mean, and last night, people around me were like, "What is happening? Like, what on earth is happening?" For him to do that, Adam, for a player of his injury record as well, to go in off the bat would make a tackle like that. Just what was he thinking?
I'm not sure he was. I think he. Well, I guess his overriding thought was, let's get stuck into the game, but like not literally, mate. Just run around a bit. I mean, he didn't slip. I've watched it back a few times to check that. It wasn't a case of he's lost his footing. It's just a shocking tackle, and I had a good angle on it. I saw it, and it looked high. It looked higher at the time than it was on the replay, but it's still too high. And I mean, you can have no complaints whatsoever. I think he took 3 times as long to get down the tunnel than he was on the pitch. So, yeah, a bit of a shocker, wasn't it? And then, ironically, we played probably a heck of a lot better with that kind of incident in the game, which again is typical Luton. It takes something to get us going, whether it's going 2-0 down against Plymouth or a red card or whatever. Something. There's always something that has to get us going, and it's not ourselves getting us going really, which is very frustrating.
And we didn't get a single red card last season, but we've had 2 this season, and they are both absolute howlers. Not in terms of the decisions, just in the decisions, but the players, the decisions made by the players. So there was the Kaminsky one, obviously at Portsmouth, which was a moment of madness that we've seen Locks winding him up about on social media since. And then last night, Liam Walsh, I think he's just one-upped Kaminsky, because at least Kaminsky was on the pitch for a good proportion of a half. I mean, what do you think Liam Walsh was thinking after when he got that red card, Jamie?
He's probably embarrassed, I think, just to think, because we all knew it at the time as like, well, that's going to be on Sky and all the various social media channels straight after the game because of how rare that something like that happens, right? And I don't even know what the record is in terms of fastest red card, but that's got to be up there. So probably, it's probably just embarrassment of thinking, shit, it's going to be headline news in the meme world later this evening. But that just I guess a comment on the red cards this season. Again, don't want to over egg anything, but I think it's a slight concern that we're getting red cards like that. I think mentally, I think it shows that something in the dressing room isn't quite right. For firstly, the Kaminsky red card to be a disagreement between Mengi and Kaminsky in the game, to then get booked for time wasting in the first half away at Pompey, and then Kaminsky just to sort of lose his head and come out to get that second yellow, and then again Liam Walsh to get that straight red card this time, but so soon after coming on for a pretty stupid tackle. Just 2 moments there that I think for me cast a bit of doubt over the dressing room and just I think the mental status right now in there, and I think something that probably needs to be fixed pretty quick.
And yeah, you said about just a few minutes ago how the subs that came on were obviously Liam Walsh, who was quickly off, and Cauley Woodrow. We've complained about Woodrow coming on for Taylor multiple times, but in all honesty, in my opinion, last night, if we'd had brought Taylor on instead of Woodrow, purely based on the fact that we would have only had Pelly in midfield, I think we would have struggled. The fact that Woodrow was able to drop in and did that job in midfield probably helped us with those last probably 20 minutes or so. But I mean, at the time, you've got to question why is Joe Taylor not coming on, a player that scored 22 goals last season, as we've mentioned on multiple occasions, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, we've put ourselves in a position in the game where bringing him on probably wasn't the right call, because we're at home against a team like as well as they played that have just come up, and we're hanging on for a point. So I don't disagree that it was necessarily the wrong thing to not bring him on. I don't understand this thing with Taylor. We've tried to get rid of him at the end of the summer, and would have done had we got Tom Cannon. We're not playing a formation that suits him whatsoever, and yet he's sitting there on the bench every week now, just basically hoping to get a cameo. And when he does, it's wide left or wide right. And I just think it's just an absolute waste at the moment of a really good player with a small bit of adaptation, and we can facilitate him. Certainly getting half an hour a game, if not at the moment starting games, if we just have a bit of flexibility. So I do feel for him. But yeah, I mean, Woodrow, we've spoken about Woodrow before. I don't dislike the guy. I think he's a decent footballer. but I just think this wasn't the summer that he was intended to stay around for, and that goes back to the whole transfer window. And I'll talk about the transfer window. There was opportunity to strengthen in those areas, and throughout the squad, and the fact we are having to use Woodrow and having to play Pelly, it says it all really for me.
Yeah, he's not a player that is, well, I hate to say it, he's not particularly popular with Luton fans. And there is sort of almost a murmur of disappointment when he comes on, which is not a nice thing for, I imagine it's not a nice thing for a player, particularly in Woodrow's case, who's actually a Luton Town Academy player before he moved away, for him to have to experience, Jamie.
Yeah, no, I think I echo Adam's sentiment. I don't dislike the guy. I don't dislike him as a player. I mean, he came up with some pretty big moments last season, especially at Palace last year to get the goal that he did. I think some good memories for us. But yeah, it's just difficult when, as you say, you've got someone like a Joe Taylor, and I'm not saying he's like the next best thing, but the thing is with Joe Taylor, he's the sort of player that we would have actively looked to sign a few years ago, sort of the goal record that he has in the lower leagues. And you look at Elijah Adebayo in terms of, we signed him from lower leagues and he's gone on to be the striker that he has been for us. So yeah, I just think Joe Taylor really is a player that should be getting more minutes than he is. And I'd mentioned about the system as well, in terms of we're playing a setup that doesn't really suit him. I think, well, the setup last night would have suited him because it was a front two with both Brown and Eli together. And if you want to bring Brown off because he's not quite fit for a full 90, then I think Joe Taylor is the one to bring on. I think a lot of us are desperate to see him in the front two alongside either Morris or Eli right now. I think to see him running off of a target man type centre forward with Morris or Adebayo, I think is the one thing that Luton fans want to see pretty quick. Because again, we're not all geniuses, but we just feel like that could be a pretty good thing for us.
Well, that is what he was doing at Lincoln for much of last season, the second half of last season. They are another team under Michael Scabala who play three at the back with two. So occasionally, I saw they were playing three strikers sometimes, but that's not important for now. But they were playing quite often Freddie Draper next to him, who's a big target man, still young, and they were playing Joe Taylor getting in behind, and that's where he was getting his goals from. So I think it is frustrating for Luton fans to see, and I can't talk for all Luton fans, but to see him on the bench, sitting there, ready to come on, but never quite getting the time. And particularly, you can tell how popular he is as well, because even when he came out for the second half, he came out slightly later than everyone and walked down past the Oak Road end and got such a loud ovation just coming out for the second half. So for a player who's clearly very popular with the crowd at a time when there's really not much for people to get behind at the moment, and it's quite an edgy and frustrated ground, you want someone who's going to lift the crowd to come on, surely. I don't know about you guys, but I just think it would be beneficial for even building an atmosphere and getting the fans behind the team, Jamie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's that saying about sort of doing the same thing over and over again is insanity, right? I think sometimes something different is okay, and it's not a deviation from a tactic or a tactical change that might change the game, but sometimes just mixing something up and giving someone something else to think about. You've got Moore that was basically trying to jump on Elijah's back most of the game last night. Maybe just switching up just to give Moore something different to think about, by thinking actually now we've got this quicker sort of Bulldogs type sort of centre forward who's going to run off me. Maybe that's going to give me something else to think about. And I don't want to dumb down football, but it can be a pretty simple game, right? Where something as simple as just giving someone something different to think about could actually just be the thing that is needed. It keeps players guessing. It's just being a bit different. I think we're probably one of the easiest teams right now to prepare for in terms of pre-match. I think what Wilder currently is obviously playing a game right now against Swansea, but he's probably already got our work tied up, and he'll relate to the players Thursday, Friday, and they'll be prepared for us on Saturday. So I think doing something that's a bit surprising and a bit different just makes it a bit harder for teams to prepare for us.
And we were actually quite lucky to not lose the game last night. We did defend well at the end for the last few minutes when we were down to 10 men with, as I mentioned, Woodrow and Pelly in midfield, which is not a midfield that I'd particularly like to see again. But the players that are on the pitch, particularly, I wanted to highlight Walters, who was playing at left back, weirdly, even though we had Alfie on the pitch. But we were playing Reece Burke at right back, and he also played well. He did get a yellow card quite late on for, I think, actually pushing the ref when he disagreed with a decision, which was pretty stupid, but everyone was a bit frustrated. But our defence held out at the end, and we were lucky to come away with a draw from that, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, some of the players and the positions that we're playing them in is just absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? Like, it's just desperation. It really is desperation. And yet, from the outside, we've all got opinions and ideas of what formation we should be playing and what positions players should be playing in. But the fact we're finishing a game and just having to do things like this, and we're doing it every week, it's either throwing the dice to get a winner, or it's trying to stay in a game. It's just mad. It's absolute madness to me. And I saw something in the week about, because Bell's injured, we don't have the flexibility to go to a back four. And you think, what on earth are you talking about? We've just had a summer transfer window that's gone on for 3 months, and you're telling me that because one player is injured, we can't be flexible enough to go to a back four. It's absolute madness. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what more to say on it. It's just some of the stuff coming out of press conferences is, if it's intending to wind us up, it's working clearly, as you can tell. But some of it is just absolutely ridiculous in my mind.
Yeah, I want to come in on that. I think I was going to leave it because I'm sure we were going to come on to Edwards and his I guess position. I think forgetting performances and forgetting results, I think for me the earliest red flag that can come from a managerial stint is things that they say in press conferences that just doesn't make sense. And I think that one that I'd have mentioned just doesn't make sense to me. I think because it makes sense. It makes no sense for two reasons. One, I disagree with it. I think we can go to back four without Amari Bell, because I think Doughty as a left back in a back four is fine if you've got a defensive right back. If you've got Burke as right back, for example, and then you've got Mengi and McGuinness as the centre halves and Doughty left back, that's fine. You can do that as a back four. Okay, I'm not saying that Doughty in a back four works if you've got two sort of like attacking fullbacks in the four, but you can do one, and therefore Doughty works in that situation. Obviously, Walters played it last night, not ideal, but he can probably do a shift if both Bell and Doughty end up being injured. So first of all, I think that's the first reason why it makes no sense, because I think he's just wrong anyway. The second thing, I think, as Adam alluded to it, then if you really believe that, then why didn't you do anything about it? Like, if you really believe that Amari Bell was our only left back capable of playing left back at the club, that is one of the first places you should have signed in the summer. Now, there was multiple left backs that went out this season from Premier League clubs, or either on loan or permanent. We let one go ourselves. Like, why are you letting a left back go? I was walking back to the station with Billy last night, and I said, Callum Doyle was a name that we all mentioned on this pod in terms of a player that would have suited us to a T as a left centre back that can play left centre back and also can play left back. He's played over 100 games now at centre back and left back at Championship level. We've took a lone player from City last year, and by all accounts developed him pretty well, because he's now ended up somehow at Benfica. I would have been on the phone to Pep on the 1st of June, or whoever the loans manager is at City, and said, I don't know if you've decided what to do with Callum Doyle this summer, but we'd like him. So if you want to send him out on loan, or if you'd actually want to sell him, you let us know, and we can see if we can make it. whenever you come up with that decision on what you want to do with Callum Doyle's future, please give us a call. And I'll be ringing him every week. Have you decided yet? No, cool. I'll ring you next week. Until they tell you what they want to do with him. It's just that being that proactive nature. So yeah, I think it's just I think it's absolutely shocking that we can go into a season with apparently one left back who at the time of entering the season was injured and had been injured for quite some time as well. So talk about squad building and having a very imbalanced squad. I think that just sums it all up.
And that does bring us on to the next thing I want to talk about, and that is Rob Edwards and increasing pressure on him. He was already under some pressure this season as it was, because the results haven't been good enough at all. We've had 2 wins and a draw, 2 draws and 2 wins from our opening. I'm lost track of how many games it is now. We're now at the game at full time last night. We were 18th in the championship, and this is a newly relegated side in 18th who were tipped by the vast majority of pundits and other podcasts and the championship podcasts and stuff to finish in first, second, third, that sort of area. And we're now 18th, and we are more. So the bigger issue is how predictable we are. I think teams are 20th as it stands, as Jamie's just corrected me, because of other results going on currently tonight. So yeah, it's getting worse. But the pressure from not so much in the club, I don't think, but from Luton fans, I think, on Edwards is really starting to ramp up. There was a lot of people who said a few weeks ago that it's too early to make that call, and we should back him and keep backing him because he's Rob Edwards and look what he's done for us. But Jamie, I just want to ask you about the pressure on him and what is it going to take?
Massive pressure. It's certainly the closest we've ever been to sacking someone since Graham Jones, right? I think it's rare that we sack a manager. I think obviously certainly since that sort of conference sort of spell where we sacked a few in a row. But yeah, it's obviously it feels a bit of sort of uncharted territory for 2020 really. But we're certainly the closest that we've ever come to doing so, I think, in recent history, or that's the way the fans view anyway. I don't think the board will do it for a little while yet. I don't think we should do it as we sit here today. I'm still on the side of Rob in currently. I think we need to forget the little old Luton and where we've come from sort of narrative, but I don't think we can forget what he did for us narrative just quite yet, in terms of getting us to the top flight for the first time for 3 decades, right? So I think that still has to come into it in terms of the goodwill that he's earned, but that will start to erode very, very quickly if things continue. And the run of games now looks pretty disgusting, to be honest. Sort of we go to Bramall Lane on Saturday, then we've got the sort of the derby after the break, and then Sunderland at home, who for me are now the sort of like the early favourites to certainly get promoted. So those next 3 in particular are as tough as you'll get at this level, really. So yeah, I think we'll see how it goes on Saturday, and then clearly the derby's a big one, because I think if we obviously lose on Saturday and then go into the derby and then lose that and put in a bad performance, then I think regardless of form after that game for a little while, I think to earn back the fans' trust would be very, very difficult. I think even if we were to lose that derby game and then win the next 3 or 4, I think even after that the fans still wouldn't have the trust fully sort of repaired. So the next 2 games are massive. I think if they go well, then obviously we're starting to get back on the right track. But if they go badly, then yeah, that could be the end. But I can't see the board doing it for at least a month or so yet.
And I think for me, I'm still pro Edwards. I'm starting to doubt whether he's got it still, but I am sort of in that camp where I'm still backing him. But you look at him and the way he sort of carries himself and the way he speaks, and even just the way he's like maintaining his like even his beard and stuff. Last season, someone put it out in a group chat. They said, "Look at him 6 months ago compared to now. He was bright and upbeat and very well groomed. We'll say
Kept, yeah,
very
looked
well
Groomed.
kept."
after.
Groomed.
And then since this season's got tough, he just seems to have gone very grey in terms of not just his hair, his actual face when he's speaking is quite grey, and he just sounds really concerned constantly, or even sort of pissed off at times. And I think it's having a proper impact on him, Adam. I think that's probably quite a difficult situation to get yourself out of, particularly when you were viewed by everyone as such a positive and, well, pretty much the whole footballing world loved him last season.
Yeah, I think he's feeling it. I think he's feeling the pressure. I think there was an assumption within the club that we would come down with the majority of the squad we had, having recruited a very good Championship team for the Premier League season, and we would be fine and we'd automatically challenge in one capacity. But when you get used to losing week in, week out, it's very hard to shake that off. He's not helping himself with the flexibility that we've mentioned. But just on him and the future, I really like the guy. I've got a lot of time for the guy. But when you are repeating the same thing week in, week out, and last night you can see what's going to happen in front of you, it's very, very hard to just be happy that, okay, well, we're back in the Championship and we just accept whatever happens this season happens. I'm not willing to do that. Now, I might be in a minority, but for me, as soon as we won at Wembley, that mindset of the club should have changed, and I don't think it has. I think they won't sack him anytime soon. You've just given the bloke a 4.5 or 4 year contract. So, we don't spend that much money on players. So you're really going to pay out Edwards and all of his staff and then try and get a manager in? I can't see it. So I think the club are happy to just let this season go on as it does, as long as we're not in a relegation battle. I'd be surprised if they made any decision before January, if I'm honest. And I think even that decision will only come if we are well and truly in a relegation battle. Even if promotion is off the table and we're 12th, and the season's going nowhere, I'm not sure. I'm not sure they will get rid. And there's a lot of split opinion on Twitter, and I respect other people's opinions completely. But the whole comparison thing to where we were the season we went up, to me, is just completely irrelevant, because we hadn't just recruited a team that should have been equipped for this level. We were in a different space completely. So the fact that we're mirroring where we were in the promotion season is just a non-argument in my mind. So yeah, I feel very strongly about the fact something's got to change very quickly. I just don't think the board are going to do anything about it, if I'm honest, and it will disillusion a lot of people very quickly.
Yeah, and I'm sure everyone listening has their own opinions on whether something needs to change, whether that's Edwards, the system, or even something else for our form to change. And we would love to know what your thoughts are on that. So let us know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or get in touch with us by tweeting us at Oak Road Hatter, or even tag us on a post on Instagram or Facebook. We'd love to know what you're thinking. But now we're going to go to a quick break, and when we get back, we'll be looking ahead to the trip to Sheffield United. Welcome back to Oak Road Hatter, where I'm still joined by Jamie and Adam. And as I mentioned, we're going to look ahead to the trip to Sheffield United. But if you'd like a quick insight to what's going on while we're recording, we've just checked the scores, and Tom Cannon, who we spoke about 10 minutes ago, has scored 4 goals in 60 minutes. So that's where we're at currently. But as I mentioned there, we're going to look ahead to the trip to Bramall Lane, and the last time we went there, we won 3-2 and scored 2 goals without having shots. So we've got a pretty good recent record there, Jamie. But they are a very, very different team to the last time we played them, and the form is pretty damning for us and them comparatively.
Yeah, they're a very, very strong championship side. They've had the summer that we were dreaming of, I think, really, in terms of the players they brought in. Just reading off the top of my head, obviously, Cooper and net. Obviously, we don't need a keeper, but great signing. Harrison Burrows, Rob, there's a left back for you, mate. Harry Suter, Alfie Gilchrist, sort of two centre halves that are tops for this level. Obviously, Gilchrist plays right back, but would have filled in the back four very nicely. Signed O'Hare on a free, by the way. Yeah, just all round they've just done some really nice business, and I think again, I don't think they spent an awful lot. They've got a couple in on loans. They got Raksaki on a loan. They got Gilchrist on a loan. They got O'Hare on a free. They got Suter on a loan. Was he? I think Burrows was less than a mil. So now, if you have that as like a list of signings, if you gave us a list of signings in the summer and didn't attach what club that was to that list of signings, you'd have thought, oh, Luton Town, you've done some great business there. But no, Sheffield United have done really well, to be fair to them, and Wilder's putting together a nice team that I think is gonna, almost without a doubt, be top 6. So it'll be a very, very difficult game on Saturday, and you probably have to say that they are pretty heavy favourites. So we're going to have to be at our absolute best, and that's not best this season, but even back to sort of our best of the last couple of seasons to be able to come away with 3 points.
And we will be going into that game without some really key players. It's unclear how long Morris is out for, but I don't imagine he'll be back for that. I don't know, but obviously he was crucial when we played there last time. We'll obviously be without Liam Walsh, who needs some time on the sideline, I think, and it's probably the best thing for him. Hopefully, Baptiste will be back. He's back on grass, so we can really only hope on that one. Well, I don't know about Chong, because if it was a concussion, he'll still be going through that protocol. So it's really difficult, first of all, to see what team it is we're going to play. You'd like to think we'll start the same side that started on Tuesday night and played really well when we started, Adam?
Yeah, potentially. I think we never really know at the time, do we, when we're recording this, what's going on. I mean, either way, I think a midfield 2 is going to struggle with their power and their pace. I'm not looking forward to it, if I'm brutally honest. I mean, we'll get our predictions out later in the week, but if anyone is remotely optimistic with a draw, then fair play to you. It's going to be tough. It's going to be super tough. I mean, as Jamie said, like even the season we got promoted, we needed to be on our game to get a result there, going to their place. And you look at their squad probably now compared to then, particularly the starting 11, and it's insane. I mean, you could argue that their strongest 11 now is better than what they had out at any point last season in the Prem. It's going to be ridiculously tough, and yeah, I mean, I'd take a point absolutely if someone offered it to me now. I will probably be watching it from behind the sofa a little bit.
Yeah, it's a game that, I mean, when at the start of the season, before a ball had been kicked, I'm sure a lot of Luton fans were looking to on the calendar and thinking, "Oh, I'm really looking forward to another trip to Bramall Lane." We've upset them a few times recently and upset the fans in the process, which has been fun. But honestly, at this point in time, the way things are going, I think it's a game that everyone going or even watching on TV at home, as Adam's mentioned there, will be pretty apprehensive about what Luton are going to do, Jamie.
Yeah, and I think 2 seasons ago, we go there and it'd be a bit daunting. You think, okay, Sheffield United, they're ex-Premier League, and we're obviously trying to push for the top 6, and if we're going to get top 6, so I think at the time we were in that sort of top 2 race, and I think we had to go there and get a win to even be in that conversation, because both Burnley and Sheffield United were pretty far away. But we had that fight and we had that ability where actually I think as fans we're like, yeah, we can go there and get something. We can go there and nick that 1-0 win that we did. It was one of our best performances last season. I thought we were incredible. Ironically, we mentioned about Pelly. I thought that was one of his best games in that season. I thought he was incredible, and I think he got fouled and he might have come off injured at some point. But I thought he was excellent in that game. So that just shows where he's come over the last couple of years. But I just don't have the faith at the minute that we're going to go to Sheffield United and put in that battling performance that's gonna fight for every ball, win every ball, and come away with either a 0-0 draw or 1-0 win. So I think that for me is the bigger issue at play is not going there and putting in a good performance. It's going there and fighting for everything. Ironically, we did that at Millwall, albeit probably maybe lucky to come away with a clean sheet based on some of the chances that they had. But if we can do that Millwall performance again and a bit better, then we might get something. But based on current form, I don't have that faith that we will.
And it'll be a home crowd at Sheffield United that are really, really keen to get one over on us after the way we got the win last season, having, as I mentioned, scoring twice without actually having a shot. Just how much will that lift them as well, Adam?
I think it will, but I mean, I don't know that they need lifting at the moment. I think they would look at anyone put in front of them, home or away, and think they can win. I mean, they're winning at the moment as we speak, and that means unbeaten. So you're going to one of the toughest places in the league, bang out of form, playing a team that are unbeaten. So talk about odds stacked against you. I don't think they'll need any extra impetus. As Jamie said, we look at it now tactically and go, are we going into the 8th game of the season or whatever it is, 9th game of the season, and thinking a good defensive performance and a point is acceptable? Whereas if you'd have asked us that at the start of the season, you'd have the ambition to go there and win. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how we get set up. But I think they're going to need zero kind of impetus to be any more up for it than they are already.
And Jamie, I just wanted to ask you, what side, from the players we've got available, what side would you like to see us start?
Yeah, probably not too different to what started last night. Ironically, I think I'm personally not convinced by McGuinness yet, and I actually would like to see Mengi go back into that middle of the three. Okay, we've not got Amari, but I think we played Walters on that left side centre half a little bit. I mean, if you're going to play a right footer there anyway, because Mengi's a right footer, then why don't you play a more progressive right footer in Walters on the left, and then go back to Mengi in the middle and Burke on the right. But I just don't think I don't think Rob's going to do that. I think we've paid too much for a player to like that not to start. Other than that, maybe you put Walters at right wing back just to be a bit more defensive. Because I think Moses obviously was good on Tuesday, but I think Walters is the more defensively reliable player in that right wing back role. I'd like to see us stick with that midfield three, so that's clearly in the Camber Kraus +1. Ideally, it'd be Baptiste if he's fit, but I don't think I'm not sure he will be. I think it's too soon. Clearly, won't be Walsh, and it probably won't be Pelly. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be Nikamber, Kraus, and Clark again in that midfield three. And in terms of front two, I thought Brown's done really well, but maybe again too soon to sort of do back-to-back starts. So maybe will this be the time that we actually give Joe Taylor a start alongside Eli if Morris isn't fit? And now it's probably the perfect game for him, right? In terms of a team's going to be at home, going to be on the front foot for most of the game, and can you just play a centre forward that is going to get in behind because of the space that they might leave in behind them? Now, yeah, I think that means odds on Cordy Woodward to start, doesn't it? So, yeah, I'm sure that'd be fun.
And yeah, you mentioned there that if you were to have that ideal star, it would be Joe Taylor to play against probably what is going to be quite a high line. I'm not sure how high Chris Wilder has had his teams playing this season, but he has got Harry Sutar in there, who's not a quick
He's
player.
not quick at all, is he? No.
He's a big man, but he's not a quick man. And they've also got Ahmed Hodzic, who now he's got over his witchcraft or whatever it was that his wife was doing, his mum was doing to him. He's fairly mobile, but he's not Joe Taylor mobile. So it's a difficult one, really, because I can't see Joe Taylor starting. But you look at it and you think maybe this would be the game to start him in and really show him what we can do, Adam.
Yeah, I see both arguments. To be honest, I see the, in my mind, someone's playing him a through ball and he's spinning off a centre half and putting it away. In reality, would that happen with our kind of lack of movement and creativity at the moment? I'm not sure. And then if you are playing him like that and you're not feeding him, then he's just a wasted body, isn't he? Because Ahmed Hodzic, could probably defend on his knees all day and still be fine. So I'd be more inclined to, and I've got, and I say it for this game only, but to basically play counter attack. To drop this concept of wanting to dominate games because you're not going to go there and do it. So I'd be more inclined to be having that sort of front three of Brown, Adebayo, and Moses. Just defend as much as you can, and then try and get the ball wide to those two. I think Victor Moses is a bit wasted at right wing back. I don't think he wants to defend, does he? I don't think he's here to defend. So I'd be inclined to do that. Probably brings Walters back into the team at right wing back, and play that kind of quick three, if you like, or two next to Adebayo. But I mean, yeah, it's anyone's guess as to who's going to be fit and what Edwards will choose to do.
Yeah, and I'm sure everyone has a team they'd like to see play and players they'd like to see play. But I'm going to ask one question from everyone listening, and if there's one player you could have starting for us from the squad who's currently available, who would that be? So let us know that in the comments and tweet us at Oak Road Hatter. Finally, Jamie and Adam, we're going to go to score predictions, and this is not one I'm feeling particularly positive for. But I'm going to start with you, Adam.
I was hoping you'd start with Jamie. I'm going to go for a very routine 2-0 home win for Sheff Utd. Yeah, I mean, I just think that the way they've recruited in that kind of like 2 or 3 week window was better than us in 3 months. So I just think their squad's far superior. They're obviously, like, confidence is hugely high, and they will see it as a game that they should be routinely winning based on the start of the season, and I think they will. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong. I'm not one of these guys that, or one of these fans that I want us to lose to make a point and to be proven right at all. I'm happy to to be wrong. I just don't think we will be wrong, or I will be wrong on Saturday.
Jamie, I'm coming to you next.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a routine win. I think we'll score though. So I'm going to go 3-1 to Sheffield United. But yeah, agree with Adam. There's nothing I want more than to see Rob Edwards go with his system and then go there and win 2-0. Like, I would love that to happen. But yeah, I just can't see it. And I think I think they'll be way too strong for us in the end.
Yeah, I thought about going optimistic, but I think the optimism has been left somewhere in the rain in Luton. So I was going to go 3-1, but I'm going to go 2-1. I think we will score, but I think it'll be a consolation goal. So we're going to lose 2-1. We'd love to know your score prediction, so let us know. But from us, that is everything. So if you've listened to the whole podcast or you did a bit of a Liam Walsh, thank you for listening. And hopefully we might get something better at Sheffield United.